Good morning, everybody. Welcome back. I hope everybody has had a fantastic weekend. Around here, it was a beautiful weekend. My husband turned 50, which is nuts because I met him when he was 23, I think. So it's been a long time coming. I was like 14, so. Anyway, I got my day going. Last week was crazy. I took my daughter to summer camp and then I kind of lost a few days with some stuff going on in our school and community. And I decided Monday morning we're back. So got up at 5, did my workout with Olivia. It was my 450th ride on Peloton. So it was a great morning. But I am super excited to introduce you to today's guest. For me, this is kind of a coup. I've never met Joe Pulizzi until this morning, but I'm very excited to welcome. So let me tell you a little bit about Joe if you don't know him. He is the Amazon best-selling author of Content Inc. If you don't know the book, here it is, the second version of it, Killing Marketing and Epic Content Marketing, which was named a must-read business book by Fortune magazine. His novel, The Will to Die, was awarded Best Suspense Book of 2020 by the National Indie Excellence Awards. Joe's latest version of Content Inc., the book I just showed you, is now available. He's founded 4 companies, including content creation news site The Tilt, as well as Content Marketing Institute. In 2014, he received the Lifetime Achievement Award by the Content Council. His podcast series, This Old Marketing with Robert Rose, has millions of downloads from over 150 countries. His foundation, The Orange Effect, delivers speech therapy and technology services to children in over 35 states. So I am so excited to welcome you today, Joe. If I can get my screen going. Here we go. Welcome to the
Hey,
show.
thank you. Thanks for having me. I just realized as you were talking through that I need a shorter bio. That's you did
Actually,
it.
I've
You
gotten
did a
some that
great
are a
job with
lot
that.
longer. Thank
You
you.
know what's funny? You said your husband just turned 50. My wife's birthday's tomorrow. She will
Oh,
be. I can't say the number, but it's real close to that. So
well, happy
so very
birthday to
cool.
her. I hope she has a
Yes,
wonderful
exactly.
day.
And the same to your husband. Yeah, very good.
Thank you. Thanks. So I did read your bio. I didn't think it was too long. I've had much longer.
Oh,
So
good, good.
yeah, not bad. But why don't you just tell us, just in your own words, a little bit about who you are, what you do, a little bit about CMI, the Tilt, and your books.
Sure. I mean, I grew up in publishing. I started in the business publishing industry in 2000. I was lucky enough to find this thing called custom publishing, which is basically instead of interrupting our customers with advertising, we're going to deliver valuable, relevant, compelling information to them. If we build a loyal audience, we can monetize that. I did that for 7 years, doing mostly custom magazines, and then it went into blogs and then webinars and all kinds of stuff. Launched what became Content Marketing Institute in 2007. We had Content Marketing World, our big event, launched in 2011, which is still the largest business event in the industry, also in Cleveland, Ohio. And my wife and I own that business. We sold in 2016. I stayed on till the end of 17. I took a sabbatical year in 2018, and I was actually out of the game. I was planning on just writing novels. You talked about my mystery novel, The Will to Die. It did fairly well. I said, okay, well, part 2 of my career seems like we're moving from marketing and publishing over to writing mystery novels. And then the pandemic happened, and we saw all this need by what we're calling content entrepreneurs, content creators trying to monetize. So I said, talk to McGraw Hill and said, okay, let's republish Content Inc. It's done fairly well, and then decided to, against my wife's advisement, to launch another business called The Tilt, which is a newsletter focused on content creators and how they can be financially independent. And here we are doing it all again.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I'd say you're being pretty successful, right? It's pretty
Well,
great.
it's fun. It's fun too. I mean,
Yeah.
I needed. I can't just retire. I needed a project, and this was something I felt was important and something I could add something to. Where there's so many people now. We talked before the show. So many people creating content now, and they don't necessarily understand that there's a business model there, and there is. So that's what the book talks about. Obviously, there's a business model if you want to become a multimillionaire after X period of time. There's a system to follow, and we want more people to do that. If they're instead of dabbling in content creation, let's create a business out of it, and you can then be financially independent or do whatever you want.
Right, absolutely. So you talked a little bit about your book, and I know before the show we were talking, you really like the beginning and the end, but you were mentioning, there's certain pieces throughout the book that are applicable no matter where you are in your content marketing career. So talk to us a little bit about, what's the goal with that book and what do you hope people can really use it to do with their career?
Well, yeah, there's so if you create if you're with any size business, I mean all businesses are creating content. They're pushing it through social media pipes, a lot of the stuff that you're doing, and they don't necessarily have a strategy and they don't know how to differentiate and they don't know what builds an audience. So if you just look at kind of two of them, I mean, there is a system, but let's just look at two of the main things that go wrong. First of all, most businesses aren't consistent with the delivery of their content. So if you're going to be on Facebook or on LinkedIn, or you're going to do a blog, or you're going to do a podcast or a show like yours, as you know, you have to be consistent and deliver over time, and that's how you build a loyal audience. Most businesses don't do that. They sort of fling out content whenever they can, whenever they have it. I mean, just look at your YouTube channel. It's probably all over the place, right? If somebody's listening to this, you've got to be consistent. The other thing that I always hit on is we call it a content tilt. You have to have an area of differentiation, or somebody might call it a hook. How can you cut through all the clutter that's out there and actually rise through and build a loyal audience over time? So we have to find an area of little to no competition on the web so that you have a chance to break through for a particular audience you're trying to target. That's number one. And number two, where people
Mhm.
go wrong. So you have to start there. And we talk about how to do that and how you actually have to build what we call a content mission statement. And you have to say, who's our audience? What are we going to deliver? And then in every piece of information we put out there, what's the outcome? What's in it for the audience? How are we trying to help them live a better life or get a better job in some way? And I would imagine anyone listening to this or watching this, if you look at all the content you're pushing out, is it self-serving? Or are you actually trying to deliver value, informational value on an ongoing basis? And that's where we go wrong. So you have to be more like a publisher and less like I'm trying to sell something.
Absolutely. And that's what we always talk about. Keep your voice real. Don't always be selling. You want to always be talking and engaging with
Mm-hmm.
people. One of the questions I always ask clients when I take them on, what makes you different? Why are you better than the other, whatever it is down the street? I once worked with a frozen yogurt company, and this was the height of when those yogurt places came in and you'd fill your cup and pick your toppings.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, well, we're different because we have fresh fruit. And I thought, you got anything else? There's got to be some other differentiator. You can't tell me you're the only frozen yogurt place in town with fresh fruit. And of course, they weren't. So sometimes I have to push a little bit. Really, what makes you better than your competition down the street? Because if we're going to be, let's say we're running Google ads or running Facebook ads, then we're competing for the same keywords. What makes you stand out? And that's really important. And then to
Mm-hmm.
put that into your voice and make it human. Don't always make it, we're different because we have fresh fruit. Make it more, we're so much fun and we love our customers and we, come on in and we'll talk to you from the counter while you're filling up your yogurt.
Yeah.
Make it fun. So some of that stuff has to overlap between social, online, and offline. You can't fix a bad product, right? Same kind of mentality. You've got to really show it in your actual brand.
No, I love what you just said, and it's really important to talk about that because everyone thinks about differentiation through products, features, or benefits.
Right.
And all that stuff can be copied. I mean, I'm a big follower. My mentor was Don Schultz. Don passed away last year, but he's the father of integrated marketing. Great book, IMC, if you ever want to read it. And he talks about everything that you have as a business can be copied today. And it will. If you're successful, it will absolutely be copied. The only way we can differentiate is through how we communicate. So, to your point, don't always think about, okay, we need fresh fruit or we need bigger cups or whatever the case is. Let's figure out how can we differentiate on communication, and that's what we talk about. What's our informational differences? What is the need that's keeping our customers up at night that we may not have a solution for in our product, but we can through how we communicate and deliver that over and over again. Not enough businesses think about that. They always think about our competitive differences and who has this feature and who has this, and that's fine. Go through
Right.
that process. It's important to go through, but if you're going to differentiate, it's how you communicate. That's how you do it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. One of my clients, they'll tell you we're not the least expensive. We're not going to beat you. We're not going to beat our competitor on price, but here's where we will. We'll beat you on service. We'll beat you on
Yep.
timing. those kinds of things, they matter. They matter to customers.
Absolutely
So,
do.
we talk about in this show, how brands stay human, how they put personality into their voices and they're not so salesy. So I'd love your take on any brands that you know of that are out there that are doing a great job. I think a lot of times small businesses think, well, I can't do that. But I think that there's a lot of businesses, either large or small, who are doing this well that we can learn from if we follow them.
Oh, there's so many case studies we talk about in the book. I'll mention some of them, but I think just to lead off is the age of corporate speak is dead. Like if you speak like a corporation and it's very static and it's very formal, you're already missing out. I mean, everything is about just being. I know we overuse authentic, but authentic, be human, be real, be funny, be sarcastic. So start off in your plan. What's your tone of voice? I mean, when we just launched our new company, The Tilt, and we spent a lot of time with the content editorial team and the VPs to say, "Oh, what do we sound like? And why are we here? And if somebody says this, how are we going to respond so that we can really figure out and we can all get in lockstep with that?" So there's some really good examples if you want to see how it's done well. A friend of mine runs an Instagram page called Accidentally Wes Anderson. He started it by basically putting an image up every day on Instagram that looked like it came out of a Wes Anderson movie. Look at Went from 3,000 followers to now over 1 million, has now a best-selling New York Times book. It's just crazy how this happens.
Yeah,
But if you look how the team communicates, it's coming from Accidentally Wes Anderson. It's not a person, but they have a voice and a feel, and they're so kind, and they get back to everyone. And there's a strategy for everything that you do. There's another author, Alessandra Torre, that she writes novels. She's got a whole group of people that follows her to get advice on publishing your own novels or publishing your own book. If you look at her Facebook group and you look at what she does online and she has her events, it's always helpful. So maybe that's the key. Maybe instead of thinking, how should we be? How's our tone? It's almost better, easier to think, how can we help this person today, even though we're not going to sell them something? If you keep that in mind and you just help, a friend of ours, Jay Bear, wrote the book Utility years ago. It's still relevant today. It's every
hmm,
piece of communication can be helpful. If every piece of communication is helpful, you will grow your business. People don't think about
absolutely.
those things because we think about, oh, we got to meet the weekly sales numbers. We got to meet the monthly. And I know we do. But if we
Right.
put our customers' needs first, that comes first. And then second, we will be fine financially after that.
Absolutely. And what's really important is that we're talking to the right audience. We're building a community out of the right group of people who are most likely to be interested in the brand, love the brand, and then, of course, buy. So, one of the things you talk about in the book is not building an audience on rented land. Talk to us a little bit about what you mean there.
So rented land is anything that you cannot control, and that means it's any social media platform. Which, by
Right.
the way, there's nothing wrong with social media. You work in social media. People want to market on social media. But what happens is, and we talk about this in the book quite a bit, you have to have a secondary strategy. So if you have 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, that's fantastic. The problem is that YouTube, those are YouTube's connections, not yours. You're borrowing them. And YouTube has an algorithm where they'll show, even if somebody subscribes to your page, they'll show it or they won't show it. They change the rules all the time. So if you build an audience on another platform, you have to have a secondary strategy for more control. So what's available now with more control? And right now, that tends to be email or a membership site, but most people aren't there yet. So do you have a valuable email communication that you could send out to your customers? And that's what we see, believe it or not, a lot of YouTubers are doing. They build hundreds of thousands, millions of followers, and then you'll see, okay, yeah, you can subscribe to our YouTube page, but you can get this exclusive offer only in email. So people sign up to emails, and then you have to send them something ongoing. And if you look at New York Times and BuzzFeed and Huffington Post and Axios and every major media publication right now, what drives their business model? Email communications. And
Right.
it seems so old world, right? It's like, oh, it's so 30 years ago. But really, if you look at the companies that are succeeding with social media, they're succeeding there, but they also have the secondary email strategy because we don't want to get caught in rented land where something like Google Plus dies
Right.
or TikTok could get banned. Like, we don't know these things. So
Right.
protect yourself as a business.
Right. Absolutely. It's so important. And I say it all the time. We don't own what's on Facebook. I mean, even personally, when people share
Yep.
that, I don't give my permission. Yeah, you did give your permission. You don't
Yes,
own
you did.
that.
You don't know, you have no control over anything that's
Nope.
going on.
Right.
Tomorrow it could be all over. And you should plan like tomorrow that thing on Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever is gone. And if you do that,
Right.
you will have a secondary strategy and you'll be okay.
Yes. Good advice. Good advice. So way back when we both started in all of this content marketing, we're about the same vintage, I think. Most of everything we did, well, really everything we did back then was organic. And now, I mean, you really just can't get away with a 100% organic plan. So if you're talking to a small business and they're kind of hesitating on putting money into whether it's social, Google, any kind of paid ads, when do you think is the right time for them to invest in that? And then, what's sort of your advice around creating a paid strategy when you still really want your voice to be real?
There's nothing, I mean, first of all, if you're putting out content, you want people to engage in it and you need
Hmm.
to build an audience, or why do it?
Right.
So what I would recommend to your point is what most small businesses say, oh, I got to be on Facebook, got to be on Twitter, got to, as a business, you got to do the LinkedIn thing. You talked to me before, you got a client that's interested in TikTok. There's nothing's wrong with those things.
Right.
But what I would do if I'm smart is I would start killing some of those off and focus on being great at one or two. So you
Okay.
might say, if I'm on the business side, I might say, you know what? I don't need the Facebook group. My audience isn't there. I want to be really good and figure out, let's say, Twitter and LinkedIn, and I'm going to put everything else off. So figure out those strategies, figure out that publishing schedule, and then if you're on LinkedIn, well, then you could advertise a little bit on LinkedIn. If you're on Twitter, you might want to advertise a little bit on Twitter, but it goes a little bit further. And I always say it's podcast for podcast is a good way to look at it. If you have a podcast, you probably want to market on podcasts. So that means you either promote, advertise, or you're a guest on a lot of other ones. If it's YouTube for YouTube because they're already there. If you have an email newsletter, it's email for email. So maybe buy some sponsorships in email. So think about it that way because it's much easier to convert from that standpoint. But I think to free up some of the resources, so if you're a small business and you want to spend some money either organically or not, you're in too many channels.
Right.
Every business that I look at, if I go in and make a recommendation, if I'm doing a content audit, they're almost always doing too many things, mediocre in too many
Hmm.
channels. And what I
Right.
want to see is how can you be great in one or two? And
Hmm.
if you look at the Content Inc. model that we talk about in the book, the ones that are making millions of dollars right now, they become great at one channel. They're a podcaster, or they're a YouTuber, or they're on TikTok, or whatever the case, or on Snapchat, whatever they become great there. And then they focus on one or two social channels to market to push people back to that home base, that platform. And then time and consistency, and they're there.
That's awesome. That's great advice. And I recently gave similar to advice to someone. I kept seeing all of their content they were currently doing. It was just being repeated from platform to platform.
Yep,
And I said, if you're going to do it that way, shut one down because you're not,
exactly.
you're not making it custom for that audience.
My friend
So
Doug Kessler says companies build a mountain of meh. It's just a mountain of content that nobody cares about. That's probably 99% of businesses. And that's
yeah,
why, you and I we've been doing the content marketing thing for a long time. But I think that people got lost and said it's not content marketing, it's just content creation. It's
right,
very, very different. You're not just creating content because we can all create content. Let's
right.
do it because it's the right thing to do. And that means we've got to be great. We can't be jack of all trades, master of none. We actually have to be master of one or two of those things and then forget about the rest.
Great advice. Great advice, Joe. Thank you so much. I really cannot thank you enough for being on the show today. I'm so excited that you were here. And for those who haven't gotten the book, you can get it on Amazon. Mine arrived in like 2 days. It was really
Yay.
easy. And I'm about halfway through the book. So there's still a lot for me to learn. And I'm excited to see you at CM World. I understand you're the opening keynote.
I'm
So
somewhere in there. I believe I'm speaking on the first day, so I love it that they continue to have me back. And Content Marketing World is my favorite event of the year. So
well, I'm excited. It's my first one. I'm headed to Cleveland this fall, and I can't wait to hug all of these people that I know on Twitter and see them face to face.
Hmm.
It's going to be fantastic. So thank you for being here this morning. It's wonderful to meet you in person, and I'll see you really in person
That's
later
right.
this fall.
I'll see you soon. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Joe. Have a great day. So thanks everybody for joining today. I'm glad that Joe was able to join us. He is, really the master of content marketing. There's so much to learn from him. So if you're a small business or if you are a content marketing specialist or you want to learn how to be better at what you do, definitely check out his book, follow him online. Oh, and I didn't put up his contact information, but here it is. You can connect with Joe directly if you want to. So definitely do that. And just a heads up, I won't be here next week. I am taking my second child down to summer camp. So I'm going to drop him off and then head to see my cousin get married. And I'm very excited for that. But join me the following week, June 21st. John Clunan, who you might know from marketing Twitter, will be my guest. I wouldn't be surprised if he's doing the show from a motorcycle. So it should be a really fun time, and definitely make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'm trying to get that number up so I can change the name of the gobbledygook title on the YouTube link. So help me out, tell your friends, and I'll see you again. Until then, keep it real. Have a great weekend.